I had stumble across Bolo, the producer. So we had an issue with Splice. As you guys remember, I've had issues with Splice. We sent a letter in, not only about PROs, but about music distributors, and say we probably need to have some kind of oversight. Rick Beato, he had done a video just talking about, well, the threat of AI. This week on All Things Music Business, first and foremost, I wrote a letter to Congress. I sent this to not only the applicable representatives at Congress, but also to the Copyright Office. And this had to do with the fact that there literally is an investigation going on right now with PROs, right? Performance rights organizations. So this is one of the handful of companies that collect your music royalties. And so Congress decided one day to basically send a little letter over to the Copyright Office and say, hey, we're going to have you literally investigate PROs because we want to know what's going on in the collection of royalties, right? You're doing these licenses for different venues and restaurants and all this stuff. So we go, this is interesting because it gave us an opportunity to send a letter. The Copyright Office goes, we're gathering information right now. We're going to give it to Congress. And so we need public comment. So we sent a letter, and this is what we did. We double dipped, not only about PROs, but to say, you're going to miss the issue, Congress, if you're only worried about PROs when it comes to independent artists and their royalties and transparency and all that. And I'm like, we've been over here on Top Music Attorney talking about this truly for over a year. And the issue right now with music distributors, I'm like, if the government wants to pop in and say, we probably need to have some kind of oversight for music royalties, we need to talk about music distributors because there are, well, I mean, we looked at Spotify, right? So Spotify reported in 2024 that it had paid $10 billion in royalties. And I go, the reality is that that money did not just go straight to record labels, artists, whoever. It went through music distributors first, and then that's where I always get involved. You guys call up my law firm and you hire me because I need to go and fight with the music distributors because they're locking you out of your accounts. They're taking your music royalties. It's been a huge ongoing issue, and we've called out a lot of distributors and we've had some wins. That's pretty cool. We've had some music distributors actually change their platform because we called them out, we had a conversation. So there's been some wins, but overall, I'm like, hey, we're going to take a peek at this. Let's take a peek at this. And then I had an opportunity to stumble across Bolo, the producer. I was sent the video for this producer. I haven't seen his channel before, but it was actually a follow-up video. So I didn't see the first one because I was just rushing through my day and all that. And someone sent me the follow-up video and had something to do with Splice. And he's like, Splice responded. And so then I saw basically what had happened. And I was like, this is interesting. And I watched it in reverse order. And it ended up being very influential on my opinion. Now, he did end up kind of responding sort of to me, but he did comment on my video too. But anyway, so he had an issue with Splice. As you guys remember, I've had issues with Splice. And it resulted in them filing a copyright strike on my channel, and it was very retaliatory. They didn't like what I was saying, and it was this whole thing, like me just doing what I literally do on this channel, which is to review terms of service. And so I reviewed terms of service for Splice because you guys use this platform. And so I just drew out some issues. They didn't like what I said. They got upset. So I did like a big call with their legal team. And what it ended up being is like, oh, we just disagree with your interpretation of this, and we disagree with your interpretation of that. I'm like, okay, well, here's a direct example of what the problem is. And in my practice of law, when we go to like sell music catalogs, here's how this applies. And they had nothing to say. And then they ultimately did retract the strike. That's why this got my attention. Because I'm like, oh boy, if this producer is talking about Splice and copyright claims, what's going on? Because before even I had the issue, you music producers have run into a lot of content ID problems when you use samples, right? And so you license samples, and that because you're licensing it from a platform that everyone can access and pay a subscription for, that means that you get flagged. And so anyway, companies like Splice are trying to figure this out, and they're trying to do things like creating little certified licenses that you can download through your account. So anyway, what this ended up being was not quite what I expected, right? So I watched the follow-up video, and my kind of perception was that he was just being like so overly nice. And he's like, I wasn't meaning to bash Splice in my first video. I'm like, oh boy, this kind of sounds like he's apologizing. And just because I had such a negative experience with Splice and they had threatened me and I better retract what I said and all this, I was like, man, I hope they didn't do that to this producer. But anyway, so then I watched his first video expecting him to have bashed Splice, and he didn't at all. And he was just like, guys, I'm just bringing this issue to my channel. And I'm just curious, like I'm a little producer. I tried to appeal this content ID thing and I lost, and Warner's collecting my ad revenue now, and that sucks. Basically, his question in the first video had just been, well, will Splice come to bat for me? Will Splice come to bat for other little creators? That had been what this whole thing was over. I was like, oh, okay, that doesn't seem concerning to me at all. But in any case, he left a comment on the video and said, no, we're cool with Splice. It doesn't sound like they were holding it to him, we'll call it. I hope everything gets worked out for him, but we kind of do the deep dive there. And then most importantly, I always have a mission in mind, which is to help you guys. So if you do use Splice, part of that video was to show you what to do, who to email, where to email, to actually get some help if you run into a problem. Okay, check that out. We're going to premiere the first remix. Actually, this was our overall winner because we had a whole bunch of remix winners. We ended up changing the whole thing because there were so many great remixes. But anyway, so this is the Ashby remix and we actually did a video for it. And it was kind of a little surprise for the remixers. And so we haven't told everyone which ones we did, but we're gonna push everything to Miss Crystal YouTube. You can come and check it out. And last but not least, we have Rick Beato. Rick wanders onto the channel every once in a while. He has such great content. And so he had done a video just talking about, well, the threat of AI. Well, that was this thumbnail in any case. And so he did two things in his video, and he principally was just testing out Suno, Udio, I think he did Murica. And then he also was like, look, these are the platforms, and he gave his thoughts and impressions.
I have friends who are like, no way, people are gonna not want to hear stuff that's not human made. I just don't believe that. I don't. I'd love to know your thoughts on this.
But he talked about the state of copyright law, and as you guys know, we have covered that extensively on this channel. So it was a fun reaction. Maybe one day soon we'll get Rick on a collab on the channel, or vice versa. And if that gets you excited, give this video a big thumbs up. Let's go, let's go.